Hello, everyone. My name is Evan Griffin, and I'm on here on behalf of my show called Strong Side of the Table. And today we are definitely on the strong side of the table. Today I have executive producers Neil deGrasse Tyson and Scott Hamilton Kennedy, whose other notable projects include The Garden, Food Evolution Fame High on their new documentary, Shot in the Arm. Welcome. It's great speaking to you both.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Thanks for your interest.
In 2019, I started working on a documentary about the rising rate of measles.
Why is this happening?
Because people are choosing not to vaccinate their children.
And how some were trying to politicize science.
Anybody who tells you, trust me on the science, you shouldn't trust them.
Our citizens are part of a medical experiment you are putting on them.
It is our children that have been affected.
They believe what they're saying. Unfortunately, it's a false belief, and their anger is directed in the wrong place.
I watched reports that measles is deadly. I think we have to question what we call deadly. If Ebola is sweeping the country, talk to me then.
Science isn't political, at least it shouldn't be. Vaccines have allowed us to live 30 years longer than we did 100 years ago. That's what vaccines can do.
This is Vax Talk, the podcast for people who prefer not to get polio.
Counter disinformation in a compassionate way. We have to get good information out there.
You were given a broken and beautiful world. You will take this world in your hands and make it less broken and more beautiful.
Once the truth doesn't matter, then it's not a democracy anymore.
I think this is a great topic and a great discussion and something more people should be interested in a curious way. And I think with the documentary, you guys have continued that conversation with Shot in the Arm. Now, for those who do not know what Shot in the Arm is, it explores the cultural mood and beliefs of the vaccine hesitancy in the context of current COVID pandemics and how disinformation is its own disease, where skepticism has become cynicism with the rise of anti-science. Now,
okay, that's the whole interview right there.
That was beautiful.
We're done.
We're done.
Synopsis of the film. Thank you.
Let's go have a beer. Right.
I would love that. I would love that. But, I really just want to do that film justice because, we've all gone through this. Like we had to sit there through the quarantine and even if people were, right on board with the vaccines, in the little back of their mind, they just had a little thought like, what if? And so that's really what I wanted to talk about was sort of the real-time science progression behind the evolution of the science in real time. Can you guys explain how you touched on that in the documentary?
Sure.
Well, let me just give a background on what that even is,
Right.
just briefly. So many people think of science as, well, they have an answer, and that's the answer, and then that they have a different answer, then let me not believe anything they say, right? So, and really that's not the person's fault. That's the fault of the educational system that did not teach you what science is and how and why it works. And in that scenario, you need to realize that on the frontier of science, which is exactly the crux of your question, on the frontier, the results can change weekly, if not daily. Okay, but once verification of a result is supported by multiple other researchers, then you have the likelihood that it's going to become an objective truth. And if you're going to base policy on science, that's where you have to be. You have to be just slightly on the other side of the bleeding edge of what science is finding. And then you say, okay, I have enough confidence in what's going on now, so this is going to be the policy. And that was occasionally broken in there. It was a comment. We have, is it Paul Offit, who we show the video of him being interviewed by Christiane Amanpour for CNN, giving information that turned out to be wrong. Very early in the pandemic, he's projecting how mild its impact might be on the United States. Well, he was wrong, and he said he was wrong.
Yeah.
because that understanding was based on some expectations, and the expectations turned out to be flawed.
Good data, some good data at the time.
At the time. If you want, so people need to understand that's how science works.
Yeah.
And in the future, for the next pandemic, what we need is a way to get medical authorities to, when I say authority here, I don't mean because they wield power, it's because they have knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. That's what I mean by authority here. They have knowledge of what's going on in the medical research community. And so we would see what's happening. They would tell us what's happening. This study has not been verified. I don't feel comfortable advising it. This one has been verified. Let's make this policy, but we'll keep checking it. Okay. And check back in a week. We will update this as we proceed. That's why we all remember, it's not covered in the film, but we all remember cleaning down groceries that came into the house. All right. It was not known at the time what the most prevalent vector pathways would be to catch the virus. Is it by contact of moisture, saliva, mucus? Is it airborne? So you do the best you know at any given moment. And the instant you find out that this is unnecessary, because you'll probably catch it another way if you catch it at all, then make that announcement. So that's how this needs to happen for the next pandemic. Scott.
Mic drop. That was a lot. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. Here we go.
Drop it.
Excellent. Did you want me to add anything to that, Evan?
Oh, no.
Please,
I'm just in case.
Please.
Well, that was so you gave the beautiful context to like what are these systems of science and how do we determine how to trust them? And now in the film, we see through the measles story of 2019 all the way through COVID that there have been people who have gone from being skeptical, right? Like a mother that is skeptical of a vaccine that might cause her child autism. We have great empathy for that mom who's wondering how did this happen and wanting to get answers. Where we draw a line, though, is where there is a person like Andrew Wakefield who purposely manipulated the truth to try to cause that fear in that mom. And that is, we wanted to differ between those two people very, very clearly, that he manipulated science and was thankfully his study was found to be fraudulent.
And that came out in one of the clips. There's an interview where an intense reporter is asking him, well, why did you publish this? And he says, well, the mothers reported it. So, but you're the doctor, you're the expert here, but why? You're the one who should be doing these experiments to find this out. And so if you're just going to report what anyone just tells you, then is that science? What are you actually doing here? And if you were a journalist, you wouldn't just report something because people said so. You would investigate it further. Right.
Exactly. You would hope if you're a good journalist, right?
If you're a good journalist.
And that's sort of the topic that you were saying on the disinformation. And on the show, there was a internet show with I guess you can call him a celebrity who self-proclaimed celebrity expert or for the high wire. And Neil,
Big Tree,
you actually went on that show.
And
talk to him and see, after watching the doc, I didn't realize that you did go on there. How do you feel like that conversation went?
So I told him, I said, I don't have expertise in this field, so I don't want to present myself as such, but I'd be happy to talk about what science is and how and why it works and how we need to think about the rollout of results as it proceeds. So I go to where he is. He's in the middle of the desert. He was deplatformed from YouTube and other places, but he still has an engine of broadcasting. And the first half of by the way, they were all very friendly and cordial. Okay. I didn't enter some evil empire. All right. They were all very.
They drugged him.
I will add that between the clips we have of him and when we interviewed, he lost like 50 pounds. He was on he had like a trim vest on. It was pretty cool. But anyhow, the first half was that. But then the second half was he started sort of cherry picking news accounts of what some doctor said. Well, he goes to a lone doctor who's pedigreed, and he says, well, this doctor tells us that the vaccine is bad. So, and he's an expert. So why shouldn't I trust him? And so that it became awkward in the second half of that interview, because we went off where I wanted to just stay. And I said, if you want to have that conversation, you should bring in a medical professional. And his rebut for that was, well, you're executive producer on an anti-vaccine film that features me, so you ought to be able to say something here. And so he has a point, a little bit of a point, but I have a greater point when I say I'm there to advise on how the film communicates. If you want to debate vaccines, you should get a medical professional. I was not interviewed for this film. My expertise is the universe and how to communicate. So the communication part is how I advise Scott in his already brilliant storytelling. And no, you're not asking me what I think of vaccines in the film. I'm the wrong person for that. He got everybody he should get.
Yeah.
Okay. So there. I don't know if I know.
Yeah, it was nice of you to go on the show, but he has no interest in playing by the rules that we play by.
I think it was a great follow-up to go on there. And just to talk with them.
I don't mind. I'll talk to most people, even if there's, because the value is I don't care so much about them as I do their audience.
Right?
They have an audience and I'm an educator. So let me speak to their audience.
And for that, I really want to thank you, Neil, for just having that science discussion. And I would like to say making science cool again,
I think it was always cool, but if some of that got lost in the shuffle, I'm happy to reveal it.
It did. And still talking about disinformation, one thing I did notice was, the music, right? And I don't know if you guys noticed, but there was probably 13,229 lyrics, right, with COVID-19 in their songs. And artists making a stance on what they would do and why they don't want to. And also, Neil, I don't know if you know, but 120 artists mentioned you in 80 lyrics.
Wow. That's an amazing statistic.
I know a couple. Some people send me a couple.
Just COVID or just any song ever?
Well, it was just a general search of just a word.
Yeah. So for me, the funnest one is the Phenomenauts. The Phenomenauts have a song called "I'm with Neil," and just look it up on YouTube. I'm with Neil, and they're dancing and they're singing, and Neil DeGrasse Tyson, and they show clips of me on different newscasts, and it's a fun, energetic song.
So I kind of want to tell a personal story of what my first introduction to even understanding what a vaccine was. My grandmother, who's this month actually turned 87, and she always had a mark on her left shoulder. And I used to always ask her and say, "Grandma, what is that?" And she would say, "That's when I got my vaccine." And that was like the first time I even heard a word or understood that there was some sort of shot that people got, and so
I'll tell you what that is, because I have it as well. That was like the last couple of years where that vaccine was administered that way. It turns out that whatever were the properties of that vaccine, it was best administered by irritating the skin and then have it absorbed through the irritated part of the skin. So it would leave a little bit of a scar, a little circular scar right there. And so it was not injected. It was not that kind of a vaccine. And I think that's the smallpox vaccine.
Yes,
I'm not mistaken.
Smallpox.
Yeah.
And so,
and you know how many people have died of smallpox? And 500 million people have died of more than all the wars put together. And now no one gets smallpox, and you say, "Well, why do I need vaccine?" And it's as was said in the film, it's a victim of its own success.
Yeah, they're right. That was a big point. Also, another big point when you guys touched on the Tuskegee experiment, and I've had personal conversations with people in the African-American community that just for that reasons alone, they were out before they even, got into the, how important it was,
Yeah. So what's not said explicitly in the film, I'm in there in a montage of people getting vaccinated with the thumb up. I was vaccinated in Harlem Hospital, and Harlem Hospital marketed that fact to try to soften what might be the resistance in the Black community towards their trust in the medical profession, which is very different from other people's mistrust. It has to do with very specific examples of the abuse of medical power. Yes, the Tuskegee event. Scott wouldn't let me do this. I didn't even suggest it because I knew it was a non-starter. But what I wanted to do was in there say, if you're a Black person and you don't trust the vaccine, just jump in line between two white people.
There you go.
There you go. And you're fine. Okay.
Yeah.
If you think they're giving you a different vaccine, just jump in line. And you got it.
And it's just
so Scott, are you glad I didn't approach you to have that?
Well, I like it in these stories better. It's very funny.
Okay. But not in your film. It would sully the sanctity of your film.
Oh, there was a lot of rich people, a lot of rich white people going to neighborhoods that they may not have visited before to get their vaccine. So that's a whole side story. But go ahead. Sorry, Eric, I interrupted you.
Well, my next question was for you, actually, Scott. So the film is coming out November 3rd, I believe, in New York at the Angelika Theater. Yep. And with the documentary and now being, COVID, well, the quarantine being behind us and now people getting reintroduced to this information again, what are your hopes for the documentary now?
Yeah, thank you. We open at Angelika in New York City on the 3rd, and then Los Angeles November 17th at the Lemleys. So it's a great honor, first of all, to be back in movie theaters and see a film with a live audience, which is the right way to do it, as well as being able to watch it from home. So what we hope is obviously that people come out to see a movie, not come out to see a movie about COVID, not to come out to see a movie about science, is come see this film. And we've seen audiences' response to it as it being, it's a healing film. It's a film that says, yeah, we all lived through something. We all lived through this. The only reason that my family is even in the film is to get a little bit of the sense of the all of us. We all lived through this, and it was difficult and it was never perfect, but it's always going to be better when we look at decency, we look at verifiable truth, we look how much we have in common than we don't. And that it's going to be a film that inspires us to defend science, defend the social contract going forward.
By the way, was it March of 2017, Trump had just been inaugurated a couple of months earlier. There was the first ever science march on Washington. Right. And there's Getty Photos has a nice collection of images of placards that people were carrying. And one of them says, the world is in trouble when geeks have to march for science. you shouldn't have to defend science. Of all the things,
Yeah. Great talking to you guys.
Yeah, because we're back to back here.
Yeah, I appreciate it. And thank you guys once again. Take care.
You got it. Okay, thanks.